I'm going to show you some things in the radar screen this morning. I think it's important to understand what the power of the radar screen is. In this particular example, the morning bell just went off a couple of minutes ago, and I'm in the master radar screen indicator, in which the yellow box is in, if you see at the title on the top, the yellow box is in, it means that the two indicators, the previous one and today's, are equal. And you can see down here in CALA, that would be this line right here, that you have many equal boxes. At this point, it doesn't mean a whole lot because the thing opened where it closed yesterday. So, but toward the middle or the end of the day, that has a lot different meaning to it, because when you have a number of indicators that are equal, it usually indicates something's going to happen. So in this particular, also the up-down text is red and green. So when you see red text, the line is going down. When you see green text, the line is going up. And when you see a red box, it indicates that you have a cross under 0. And when you have a green box, it means that you have a cross over 0. So it's like we put three ideas together on one indicator. Also, this indicator right here is what you see right now is one indicator built on the system, and the name of it is the top line. And so several of these radar screen indicators have been built for the DTVB system. This particular one, I think, is, everybody has their own opinion, but I think it's very interesting to watch. I think it's very powerful. I think it tells you a lot about what's going on. I mean, right now in ASPS, the second one from the top, we have about, 9 or 10 green boxes. That means that those 9 or 10 indicators have crossed over 0. And it's powerful because especially right here, we've got power Zion, power red, power yellow, and power white all crossing over 0. And that means a lot, because all of those the power red is obviously the most powerful crossover indicator, but when you have a number of them crossing over, I mean, obviously it could be a gap up, but when you have a number of them cross over, you can get into the stock early and tell you that, and it'll give you the ability to trade that during the day. And usually within a few minutes after the market, you're going to hit the bottom, because remember, in candle activity theory, a green candle opens, then goes down, then goes up most of the day, fills in the body of the green candle, and then toward the end of the day comes back down, and so you have a tail on the upper and lower part of the body. So also, one really very important thing about the radar screen is that it's live. In other words, these changes that you see are taking place instantly, and that is not the ability with the scanner. Remember, or if you haven't seen a video on scanner, you know that you have to have a closed candle on a scan. And so it's just like when we find gaps. We will do, there's 6.5 hours in the market, that the market is open, 390 minutes. You can set a minute interval, an hour or two before the market closes, and then get a close candle out of that, and then identify all of your conditions that you normally might see gaps in. And those conditions are all printed in the 400 plus pre-built indicators. So like if you, for example, if you want to see divergence between the power pink line and the power blue line, you can just click on the power pink going down and the power blue going up. Those are two separate indicators, but you can plug them right into the scan and it'll print out divergence. It'll print out all of the stocks on that day between whatever conditions you give it, like between $10 and $20, or volume numbers, or whatever those additional conditions are. It'll spit out that list for you every time, or not every time, but when I meant to say every time you run it. And yeah, that's true, because you're just going to make that run, at 300 minutes, which would be an hour and a half before the closing bell, or whatever it is. So that ability to find the gaps is real interesting, it's real interesting, but it's real powerful. And that's how we find gaps. The radar screen, I needed to say that so that you have some idea about comparing the radar screen to the scanner, because the radar screen is live. As you see things change, you identify with what those changes are. And it's live is what the emphasis I was trying to make. And so this next box right next to it is the 7 short-term trend lines. And this one, on the 7 short-term trend lines, the red box means that the indicator line is down. The green box means that the indicator line is up. The white text, I basically was thinking about clouds in the sky, so the white text means that the indicator line is up. Excuse me, I said that wrong. That the indicator line is above 0, and the dark red text means that the indicator line is under 0. And so you can instantly look at this and tell what's happening. This top one, number 1, has 5 red boxes, meaning that all 5 of the short-term trend lines are going down. And I should clarify that, because I've identified in the trend trio, you can obviously only track one line. So I'm tracking the yellow line, which always stays closest to the 0, and the blue and the green line, the trio lines, the red, pink, the yellow, pink, blue. Boy, I'm having trouble with colors this morning. The trio line, they all are above 0, or they are all under 0. They're all going up at the same time, or they're all going down at the same time. So just by identifying one, you've identified them all. So in the interest of space, I just made 5 columns. And so this is a quick reference. You don't even have to, maybe you have a favorite 100 stocks that you like to trade, or whatever it is. Some people have a favorite 10 or 20. But whatever it is, however you want to look at it, this is a powerful indicator. And again, this indicator has 5 columns. And again, you can put 30 indicators on the screen at the same time within radar screen. That's the maximum you can put, but obviously you can have numerous columns. Okay, And so this 7 short trend line is great. I have a number of other indicators built for the radar screen, but I'm just doing this first one that I showed you and the short-term trend line that I showed you. The first one that I'm showing you is a combination. Let me just clarify that. It's a combination of when you find indicators equal. The text identifies going down or going up, the line itself, and the a box identifies a crossover. The red or green box identifies a crossover. And when you have a yellow box, it identifies the equal sign. So, and then over in the price thing, it's a little bit different. In the price column, or in the 3 price lines, we have when price green. I need to take a look at this and make sure I'm talking correctly about it. When the green text obviously is a line up and the red text obviously is a line down. That runs the same throughout all of the indicators built in the system. I notice I have one that's incorrect here. I've got a pink box, and that was an old formula that I'm using, but I've switched them all over to green. I'll define what I'm telling you. In the green, price green is a price barometer. That's why I have a price barometer under it. I've also identified the other price barometers over here, like Zip Pink is a price barometer. And then, of course, Swing Zion is your other price barometers. And then you have the 3 price green lines that are your price barometers. The price barometer moves with the price. That's what it's designed to do, and that's what it does. And those can be very important in how they operate and how they relate to other indicators. So just keep important lines in mind when you're looking at the chart, because sometimes we fail to think about what the lines really mean, and obviously some are much more important than others. And anytime you have leading indicators, those are real important, like Zip Red and Swing Pink. Those are the 2 fastest or quickest lines in the system. Now, in the green column here, when you have a green box, the green box is price up, and when you have a blue box, the blue box means that it goes down. Now, but what I want to say is when price green crosses over price red. So in other words, price green is going up, you have a green box. When price green is going down and goes under price red, then you have a red box. This is also very important. Remember, just think of what I just described. I described a crossover, which is a divergent condition. And if you've seen other videos about how I talk about when in gaps, when you get for example, when price red is on a peak and it crosses down and then it ends up lowest, well, that's a divergent move, because it could go down and price red could be highest and go down and remain highest, but it doesn't. It crosses under the green line. So that little difference in sensitivity gives us a tiny window into some key divergent activity within the system. And so it's telling us about that divergence. And as you know, I'm very, I'll hesitate using, I'm very excited, but I'm very high on divergence. Divergence is a very powerful thing. When you have one line going in one direction telling you about a market force that's going in one direction, and another market force tells you that it's going in the opposite direction, something's going on there, and then things are going to pop. and they'll pop in the way of a gap, or they'll pop in the way of a low cycle change or a high cycle change, oftentimes. And this is the whole system is built on reversal recognition. We are very positive about our abilities to identify strength of a market. We don't know of anybody out there that's working on that we see. I mean, I'm not searching by any means, but I haven't found anybody that can tell you about the strength of a market movement. And especially when you have very sensitive indicators, they tell you about the strength before the main price movement takes place, and oftentimes tells you about the day before. I mean, let's face it, we have a system that can tell you if it's going to gap tomorrow. Nobody does that. So I've said it before and I'll say it again in the form of a question. What's more important, the next trade that you make, or the system that you use to find the next trade that you make? And the answer is obvious. And I've said it again on other videos that we have the best system on the planet. And I firmly believe that. I am at odds to find anybody within the internet that can tell you what I can tell you. And with detail. There are a lot of people out there that'll have an algorithm that they will tell you that this one is going to do this, but they're not, the algorithms that I've looked at are not, their high probability ratios are lacking. When we take those patterns and then we verify with good conditions and then we wait for the signal, our high probability ratios are above 95%. Because basically we've picked the ones that produce the results for the specific pattern. Because we have over 20 pattern types up and over 20 pattern types down. And again, if you've had a chance to look at any gaps, you know what those 3 patterns are that define gaps up. And those are the identical indicators, the down touches in the trend chart. There's 6 qualifying down touches. And then, of course, the proximity group patterns. There's location patterns and shape patterns in the proximity group. And it's easy to find the identical indicators. And the easiest way to do it is right here on the 22 market force recognition indicator lines. You've got Microsoft at the bottom, and Microsoft has let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 lines that are not yellow. So out of 22, we've got a 15 identical indicator count in Microsoft right now. And that may stay the same by the end of the day, and we need to verify it with the down touches in the trend chart and the proximity group locations and shapes in the proximity group pattern. When we have the good conditions in all 3 of those, there's a really good chance that we'll have a gap up specifically. But this is one of the best ways to quickly identify high indicator counts, because otherwise you're meticulously looking at if it's technically a lower or higher pattern, because sometimes the lines are real close and you have to look them up on the data window. This stops all of that. It's really fast. You can you can go through 300 indicators in a matter of a couple of minutes and see the big identical indicator counts. The yellow right now, Microsoft is in a high M pattern, and it's specifically a right peak higher high M pattern. If it was orange, it would be in a high M right peak lower pattern. And it's just like the pink. The pink is a right leg W. The light pink is I said that wrong. The pink is a right leg W higher. The light pink is a right leg W lower. And the green is a BOC pattern. And the red is a TOC pattern, meaning going down, green meaning going up, likely. But you obviously don't know where the BOC patterns are, if they're at the bottom or on the peak, because a BOC pattern on a peak is a obvious case of divergence, and when we have divergence, we usually have strong movements. So a BOC pattern on a peak can be a very powerful indication for next day down. So those are some of these are the three primary indicators that I wanted to show you. I also want to show you, I also want to show you that when I light up price blue, for example, this is the indicator. So when you load these onto your radar screen, there are 22 separate ones, and the sheer code volume made it necessary that we not run them together. We could run a few of them together, but it just became simpler for clarity of code writing and the other issues associated with creating an indicator, that we keep them separate. And when so you're going to have 22 of these on the radar screen, and obviously if you put 300 symbols on here, some people's computer will not handle it and it'll crash. So depending on what you're running, I mean, these 22 indicators probably run as much as these 22 indicators. But these 22 indicators are in one indicator. So your symbol column is one, your last column is one. Over here I have the shares. Basically this is a column. When you open up this, and when you go into the development environment and open this up, ddtvb.shares, it opens up and it lists a number. I have the number set at 10,000. So in other words, with $10,000, I can buy, in the case of Microsoft down here, I can buy 143 shares of Microsoft with $10,000. And then you can go in and set that number at whatever number you want. Some people like to set it at a particular volume or particular dollar amount, because then they can put X amount of dollars into that specific opportunity, and then spread yourself out in different opportunities, not doing everything in one basket, as they say. So again, this is a general, I wanted to have a general indicator that gave us a lot of information, and the equal sign, the text up and down colors, and the box colors are on the crossover. They give us a lot of information just on one screen. And you can quickly go, depending on how many monitors you have, you can look at all of these columns at the same time if you wanted to. So those are the ideas behind what I'm talking about in the three examples here in radar screen that I have just shown you. It's the radar screen, like I say, is an instantaneous analysis. It tells you, as long as you write your codes properly, it tells you instantly what's happening with those lines right now. And that can be, and that is an easy way to go to the open, look at your monitor, box color alerts, and find an opportunity. I mean, when like for example, just in the 7 short-term trend lines, if everything turns green instantly, well, you know, unless it was a huge gap, you know that sometimes they'll gap up 2 cents and they'll all turn green. And then they'll go down 10 cents and bam, that's an excellent opportunity for you. Just watch it on the 1 minute or the 2 minute chart. And when you find the bottom, enter the position. And chances are that when it gaps up, those lines will still all remain green, even though the price has gone under the previous close. It's a phenomena that most are not aware of, but also it falls within typical lines too. When you have a indicator, or excuse me, a symbol that opens up higher, that's a strong indication that it's going to end up higher at the end of the day. It's not always true, but more so it's true than not true. So all of this is relative to supporting evidence. When you have when you have more than 12 of the identical indicators in either a 1 pattern or a 2 pattern group, and they work in a 3 pattern as well. I've seen three different groups with 7 in each group. There were 21 identical indicators in 3 different patterns, and they were all up patterns, and there was a real nice gap up the next day. And so you can do 3 patterns. We normally concentrate on 1 and 2 patterns, we like to see over 12. Once in a while, you'll see the total count that's under 12. You might have 6 and a 4, and you have other good conditions in the down touch area on the trend chart, and the proximity group locations and shapes are good. And bingo, you get a gap with less than 12 identical indicators. But we normally like to see at least 12 and with the other good conditions. And then besides that, you might find one line that is another pattern in itself, like a zip green lowest, and you're contemplating a gap up scenario, and you find one lone line over there. Zip green is lowest. That's a strong indication for an uptrend. That is supporting evidence. When you find the swing pink going up, that's a strong evidence. Also, but there's another way that it's really strong, and that is in a high right leg W. When swing pink is in a high right leg W, that can be even though it's going down, it's a strong indication that that next day is going to be great. And right leg W's are very strong. You get a few of those together, and you usually get a green candle the next day, not necessarily a gap. So this is a tremendous system. I am awed by it. I am amazed at what it can do. The more you get to understand the system, you can see how powerful it is, and the greater the variety of things that you can do with it. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of search methods that will give you high probability results. And one last thing. Remember, when you're trading, or excuse me, when you're looking at an opportunity in DTVB, you have reached a point at which, if you're not even looking at gaps, you're taking a pattern. Like, for example, you're comparing 3 red-green twin spikes. That's a red. Zip red is down, and the next day or 2 days later, zip green comes down. And so it looks like red is down to zero and red goes up when green comes down 1 day later or 2 days later, and that leads us to a next day up and sometimes an uptrend. But if you have three of those and you're analyzing it and looking what the conditions are, you're looking at the short-term trend lines, you're verifying other patterns, or just, you're seeking supporting evidence. That basic premise, that basic activity increases your knowledge about how indicators move in relation to price. So it's just a powerful system. We designed it that way, we mandated that idea. We didn't specifically design it that way. That's the way it evolved. But we mandated that idea that we had to be able to see what was happening in the marketplace. And we wanted the strength idea as well. We realized that there were a lot of stocks that, the obvious strong movement is a gap. But you can recognize really strong movements, and they end up being 3 to 5 day uptrends or 3 to 5 day downtrends. And you can do that on the first day. And, one of the obvious and basic methods is a TOC pattern. The TOC pattern normally appears on the top. It's a upside down V, and when the right leg is lower than the left leg, you have a greater amount of push. The forces within the marketplace have pushed that price down farther than it normally should have or could have. Typically, in a normal turnaround, you're going to have a TOC higher pattern. But a TOC lower pattern on the very first day of the turnaround identifies the market pushing down stronger. And 1 or 2 days later, you can get a really big red candle or a gap down. And so that's the strength that we recognize. It's indicator line lengths. Zip red can jump 30, 50, 70, 90 points. I've seen it go from under 5 to over 95 same day, in 1 day. And then when it's over 95, the red always goes down, but normally the price goes up because oftentimes when that happens, the price will hardly move and something's going on. And boom, the day after that, you get a really big green candle or a possible gap. It's called the delayed effect, or I call it a delayed effect, but you can see it in line length recognition. Now, even though zip red moves really great distances, swing pink, which is the other quick line in the whole system, zip red and swing pink are the two quickest. Swing pink line lengths are insignificant compared to zip red, but swing pink is really fast. It changes directions. It's always a leading indicator. And there's many, many other leading indicators. The zip lines are on the zip chart because of their speed. So practically all the lines on the zip chart are leading indicators. But possibly not yellow and blue, but yellow and blue are more position-related indicators. Also, when yellow and blue are separated from each other, because they are a pair synchronized together, when they separate, and you'll see that happen every so often, blue will separate itself from yellow. When it's doing the separation, when it started the separation, your prices moves. The volatility is greater. And then when they come back together, sometimes that can be just in 1 day or sometimes in more than in 1 day. When they start coming back together, that when the spread between the two lines is getting closer, that's when you get price volatility as well. So I mean, there's just literally hundreds of ways to do this. There are going to be dozens of examples that'll fit within anybody's style of trading within this system. It's just listening to the videos, learning what's happening, identifying how things move and why. The more videos you listen to, the greater will be your knowledge about how the system works, and the quicker you will learn about the relationships between what the indicator lines are telling you in their relationship to price and anticipated price. So, just a powerful system. We are amazed. We sometimes just can't believe it. But we created the indicator, the radar screen indicators for quick analysis. The three that I showed you are just excellent, and there are more on other videos. There's the down touches and others. And so look at them, watch them, pick the ones that suit your needs. If you can increase the number of monitors that you're using to trade, I personally trade with 6. It's very helpful to have additional monitors so that you can just look at different things while you're trading. So that's it for this video.